doing workshops with kids on how to be great bystanders, because you know what? It really does lie with peers, I think, when it comes to really getting a hold of what bullying, what you can do to prevent bullying. You can put in place wonderful programs, but at the end of the day, if you've got a huge school full of people who don't feel empowered to step in and say, you know what, that's not okay, then the whole culture stays the same. So I've come here today to talk to you and give you some really great tips and hopefully do some tweaking of like motivation for what your place is on this camp exactly, and try and enlighten you to the exact amount of power that you girls are going to have on this camp that's coming up when it comes to setting up a great culture for the Chappaqua camp. I might talk about the Yellow Lantern stuff that I do at the end, but I also run a company called Yellow Lantern, and I teach kids how to speak powerfully from their centre, which is we call the Yellow Lantern. So how to make mistakes, how to get it wrong, how to love themselves anyway, and how public speaking can be an amazing opportunity to stand in front of a beautiful bunch of people and feel amazing, like I do right now. So I teach kids how to do that, and adults now. Okay, so we've got about an hour, is that right? Yeah. So today we're going to talk about what is bullying, what to do when and if you see bullying, what is your role, what can be your role as staff, and we're going to practice an activity that each of you are actually going to facilitate for your group. Have you been aware? Are you made aware of this?
No, not yet.
Great, now you are. So it's called an induction activity. It's the very first activity that your group is going to do together. Is that right? And you guys are going to run it for them. So this is where you get to step in front of your group and let them know who you are, make friends, be their peers, and also do something fun with them and set the tone for the entire time at camp. So I actually call this activity a moral toning activity. But more about that later, because it kind of sets up the moral tone of the entire camp. What you do first is so important. So what's bullying? We all know what it is, right? Just to give you the actual definition shared by researchers and policymakers in Australia and across the world, bullying is a repeated verbal and psychological and or physical act of aggression from one group or an individual to another group or individual with the intention to hurt. Okay, with the intention to hurt. So straight away you might be thinking all of the things that actually aren't bullying, because it needs to be repeated, it needs to be with the intention to hurt. And the reason I'm going over this definition with you is because bullying is a term that shouldn't be thrown around lightly. Calling someone one name once or not liking somebody is not bullying. If we use the word bullying, it actually has really strong implications these days, including jail sentences in certain ages. So I'm just saying what bullying isn't. So bullying is not a mutual conflict where both people don't agree. It's not a social rejection or just a dislike of each other. And it's not a single act of episode of nastiness. Although to be aware of single episodes of nastiness is very important because they can escalate into repeated intentional acts, which we need to definitely get on top of. So. Hands up in this room, anyone here, this is an honesty thing, who has been bullied once or twice in their life?
But doesn't bullying mean repeated?
Yes. Yep. So repeated.
So bullied once really means bullied.
Well, at
No,
that
an
stage you
instance
was
of
happy.
bullying. So one instance of bullying might have gone over 2 years. Yeah. So, yeah, hands up. Who has been experienced it? Wow. Yes. The statistics show exactly this type of number. So that's about 9%. So how about
0%?
pardon?
90?
Yeah. Yeah, about 90% of kids will experience bullying at one time in their life. Or adults, anyone will experience it at least once in their life. Yeah. How about, this is real honesty, how about those who have been in a position where you found yourself bullying others? I have. And how about people in this room who have witnessed bullying happen in front of them? Witnessed it. Witnessed bullying. There is not one person,
sent it to the
anyone
girls
not
that
put their
didn't
hand up
come.
just then after any of those three questions. Yeah.
The video I want to send it to the girls that can't come.
Everybody is affected by this. And the biggest antidote, the biggest thing that we can do about it is, for lack of sounding really hippie, so I'm going to get out hippie on you right now, is love and is complete understanding of culture in society and holding the space for genuine relationships which have integrity, and it starts with you. It always starts with you. One act of kindness, one act of I will not stand for this, I will do something about it, has a ripple effect that you could never know the size of. It's everybody's issue. Why do kids bully? Do we all have a little theory as to why a child between the age of, let's say, 6 and 12, why would they bully? Just yeah.
Maybe they were bullied.
One person, because I'd love for us all to hear. What did you say?
So maybe they were bullied.
Maybe they were bullied. Yep.
They want to gain power.
Yes. Gain power.
Yeah. They feel very secure themselves.
Yeah. Personal inadequacy. So how do I feel more powerful? Because I feel so powerless. How do I
Push
feel more
somebody even
powerful?
lower.
To push someone even
They
lower.
say that hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people. Yes.
You can feel threatened by the person that they're bullying, so to feel higher.
Yeah.
They might not realize the extent.
Sometimes the person just likes to be
Lots of kids, especially between the ages of 6 and 12, don't even realise the effect that they're actually having. It actually feels fun to them, and that is not because they're nasty. It's also because of a developmental function. They are testing out, they've touched something, oh look, there's an effect. Oh, how exciting, it's an adrenaline thing as well. Okay, it's not just that they're bad little people whose parents don't treat them right or whatever. So there needs to be an element of compassion. If there is a child bullying, it's often because they have received it from somewhere else. They feel powerless at home. They feel like they need to gain power somewhere. Yeah. So it's a really delicate topic, a delicate area not to go, you are bad because you're bullied. And
I'm
besides,
sure it's nasty. I don't think anybody's predisposed to being nasty.
yeah, it is part of the human condition. At least to test out being nasty at one point in our life. The question was once asked to me in all the research that I have done in bullying over the years. Is it possible, what are you trying to do here, Natalie? You've dedicated your life to anti-bullying. What does that mean? Are you trying to get rid of bullying altogether? And it's a valid question. I had to think, what am I trying to do? Do I believe in a bully-free world? Is that what this is about? Am I trying to eradicate it completely by doing the work that I do?
Well, when people are very
When you stand around, you're giving the bully power. Even listening to them.
No, the question here is it possible, or would we want to head toward a completely bully-free world?
Yes,
Is it possible?
it's not possible to be doing it.
It's not, because everybody needs to grow. Everybody needs to polarize in one direction or the other, which may mean being nasty sometimes. But the issue definitely is when bullying happens repeatedly over and over again, the amount of harm that it can and does do is where people like me come in, and now where people like you also come in, to prevent it getting to a point where it is painful and hurtful over time. So, what is the difference between the environment, for example, at school, where bullying does happen? Basically, you get a big chunk of people together, you're going to have people sorting out their social relationships with an opportunity for nastiness to come in and hierarchies to try and, sort themselves out. The main difference between bullying that might happen at school and happening at camp is what? Exactly. Kids don't get the opportunity to go home at the end of the day. They are trapped in that. For how many days?
14 days.
14 days to a 10-year-old feels like what? Forever. 6 months? Yeah. Huge. So that's the main difference.
Also, it's just so much on a bigger scale because you're together so many hours a day that everything gets magnified. Any issue that happened in school becomes so much bigger in camp.
Yes. Good point. So if there are two kids who knew each other from before and they're already not really getting along, they bring that to camp.
And it's
Sometimes we have different ages coming together versus in school it's more divided, so we're not gonna have a bigger kid taking on a smaller crowd. Well, not as much because they're more separated. They can
That's
have different
true.
activities that are done together.
Yeah.
Also, in general, there's much more opportunity. You're not sitting at a desk most of the time, and sometimes by recess. Your entire day is recess. Even if you're doing an activity, it's not like raising your hands.
Yeah.
You could interact with so many more people.
Exactly.
It's a more informal setting, so people let loose a little bit. It's a more informal setting, so the kids would let loose and they don't feel as structured and therefore.
Exactly. And they don't know what's coming next, and there's all these opportunities to interact in ways they probably wouldn't usually. I used to work at an outdoor leadership camp for 1 year, so exactly what you girls are about to do for 2 weeks, I did full time for 12 months. So it was amazing, but thank God I was 25, so I don't know if I could do it now. I have a 4-year-old, was always my parent. So 3 days with a group of 30 students was my job. I would take 30, they would be my 30 for 3 days.
What age?
Any age.
You see
From
3 days a week?
grade 1 right through to grade 12. I might have 30, 10-year-olds one day, 1 3-day block, and then 30 18-year-olds there. Yeah, so I had to swap from, you can imagine how dynamic it is. So my job was to take these groups out to the wilderness, and the company was pretty cool in that it taught me how to do all of the activities. So I was their one instructor, so I taught them how to do abseiling and kayaking, canoeing and caving and kite ropes and all that. And so we got a chance to really develop a relationship. And that is the magical part of being on a camp. And that was the biggest selling point. That was the biggest selling point of the camp that I worked for as opposed to other camps, where the facilitator of that group in other camps was only just one facilitator for kayaking or just one facilitator for abseiling. So the kids would come in and they'd be passed between different facilitators, and they wouldn't have one person that took them all the way through. And so what happened with our camps is that we got a chance to form really strong relationships and see the kids through the progression of the entire camp together. It was really powerful just to have that consistency. And that's what you are. Yeah, you're with the same group for 14 days. Wow, like I had 3. And I formed an incredible relationship. And it was my job to form an incredible relationship with kids in 3 days. And now you get to do it for 14. And there is a beautiful responsibility that goes with that. And that responsibility is to be the container for that group. So I don't know if you think of yourselves right now as somebody big enough and wise enough to hold a group in a container of safety, but that's what you will be when you step into camp. And I'll show you how to do that. Today's session. Oh, good. So the number one I just want to go through the three top types of bullying that may occur on camp, because I've seen it happen. Number one is pecking order. And this happens as soon as as soon as the campers arrive, this starts happening straight away. And you'll see it if you have the eyes to see it. And be looking for it. Because when the kids first get there, can I call them kids because I know they're older?
Yeah.
When the campers first get there, you can see it. So what you're looking for is when they rush into their dormitories and they've got bunk beds, is that right? Okay, pecking order starts there. Okay, like who's got the tuck there? Who's going to be sleeping next to who? Who's going to be in this room? Who's going to be in that room? Who groups together? Who gets shunted? Who's the one calling the shots and who decides who's going to get the top up? Like they start doing this in-group, out-group thing like that. And so if you're watching them, that's when you get to glean information about who are the strong characters in your group. So hopefully you kind of have an idea at that point, or just be watching. Even if the people that you're watching aren't in your group, be watching. Take in information. This is you as an educator, a savvy, clever, social educator. Yeah, you're not teachers, you're educating, you're going to be clever about doing this socially. So start paying attention as soon as they arrive. Social isolation. So in-group, out-group behaviour. So this is our friend group, you're not part of it. Be watching for that too. We're going to get to strategies in a second for when you see that, what you can do. It's just really common sense, but we're going to ground that knowledge here. And the last one is pretty obvious, it's put downs. So put downs can be under the breath, you know, they're really subtle. And the Australian culture is notorious for put downs. The tall poppy syndrome, especially if one kid's doing something really, you know, really overachieving, doing all the activities and finishing, blah, 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 you know. So little put downs that you might not even hear, but will be whispered under the breath, or maybe even directly. When I was on camp, I had this one guy. What was that? I had this one boy, Paul. He was in grade 8, and the entire group constantly slagged him, like calling him all these names. And his way of dealing with that was to laugh. So he had armoured himself, like literally had put on armour, and thought that it was funny when people constantly put him down. He took it to be like kind of I'm the clown thing, and yeah, of course, that's what everyone thinks of me. I'm an idiot. Ha ha ha, isn't that funny? And so by the end of that 3 days, you know, my goal was to prop him up and to point out to the rest of the group in really subtle ways how actually he's quite clever. And my gosh, you know, Paul, I thought you were a clown, but actually that was really cool what you just did. And I would say that in front of people. If you are aware of the power you have as a person, yeah, and as a voice, you can do quite small shifts in the way that you speak to the group that you're with. And by the end of that 3 days, people weren't as quick to put him down. He became a little bit more normal to them, a little bit more included, and much less banter. I only had 3 days. But, you know, give me 2 weeks and I reckon I would have had it. So,
The kids know each other before they came to camp?
yes, I did. So these are all school children that come to this camp, just waiting to have a Year 7 camp, the whole Year 7 week. So, you know how we were just saying kids can't go home from the camp situation. This could also work in your favour. It's not just a whole, oh my God, they're insulated. It actually can work in your favour because if you can make that group feel safe, wow, they never have to go home from such a wonderful feeling for 14 days. How cool would that be? So it can go one way or the other. You get one kid who feels unsafe, it's hell for 14 days. You get the entire group to feel like this is really cool. Everybody here is accepting, supportive, encouraging, positive. I wish this could last all year. Is the response you can get. So it can work for you. So someone else has got their mobile phone on, and so do I think. So I'm just going to turn that on and show you this graph that I use every year because I think it's really important. Has anyone done psychology chemistry? Yeah? Okay.
Good.
So I did a master's degree in psychology, majoring in developmental psychology. And the one thing that kept on coming up was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You heard? Yeah?
Maslow.
Oh my gosh, it's been a while. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Can everyone see that? I'm going to talk through it anyway. But Maslow basically said there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels that we need in life in order to reach our fullest potential. And that we can ascend these levels. And once we've achieved one level and go to the next and go to the next, this is, you know, self-actualization being the tip of the triangle. The thing that is one of the most beautiful things about being a human being is that you can have a deep level of self-actualization. It's wonderful. Many people don't ever embark on that quest, but lots of us do. But he says it's almost impossible if you don't have your physiological needs met. If you don't have your safety needs met, your belonging and your esteem needs met, then this is almost impossible, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how much you try. So in the camp setting, we're going to sort of have a look at life needs and camp setting needs. Because what you're doing in the camp setting is you're creating a subculture. So schools are a subculture. Inside the schoolyard fence is an entire subculture of its own. Every school has its own language, has its own banter, has its own in-jokes, has its own culture. And so for 14 days, there will be a culture formed. So inside the culture of camp, you've got these physiological needs that need to be met, the basic stuff. Food, water, shelter, toilets, bedding. I assume you've got all that sorted. Yeah, of course you do. Number one. Okay, once these needs are met, then that means that it'll be...
Can I just add something interesting that just came to my mind? That in camp we have a bug problem. A bug problem? Bugs. Like really bad, especially when it's hot weather. Like they go all over the kids' beds and, you know, really bad. And the nights that there's bugs, like the kids actually freak out so much. You can't do anything to calm them. And sometimes I just kind of think, get over it. But like it's true in a way that that's their bottom need. And if that's not met, they can't actually enjoy anything, think about anything. All they're focusing is on the bugs on their bed. So I kind of get to my mind now why they freak out so much, because their bottom need is not being met. Yeah.
We should get like nets for over the beds.
No, if they close the door, it's fine.
So you need to actually ask
Or they
them
should
to
just
bring their own mosquito nets.
I want to do plastic tape to hold on.
Funny, or a fly swat. Or a fly swat.
So what you could be asking, if that's the case, if that's the case, you've got to work with quite hard. I'm just going to speak nice and slowly. So, if that's the case, then definitely put in place something to try and get those needs met. So asking them to bring mosquito nets. You know, they might have one in the garage. Bring as many as possible. We've got 2 or 3, bring 2 or 3. Some people have at home the bug zappers. Wonderful. Bring one bug zapper for a room. Close the door when it's sleep time. Put the bug zapper on for half an hour. So they're all gone. You can go to sleep. Like try and prepare them for that. Because if those physiological needs aren't met, or hang on, let's say that the only thing that you get right at camp is only this. That's all you get right. Imagine. So you've got your food, water, shelter, toilets and bedding for 14 days. What type of time are the campers going to have at camp if that's all they get for 14 days?
Secure time.
Good, yeah.
Will they feel secure without any safety, belonging or esteem? No. That's all they get is the question. That's all. Yeah.
Physically, just
I think they would rather
fine.
Yeah.
Emotionally, they'll be around.
Yeah, exactly. And they might go home saying to mum and dad, that was boring, I never want to go back. Because all we got was that. Yeah? So it's safe to say that if that's all the campers got, they probably wouldn't have a great time. Now, safety. So this goes without saying, you know, you've got your rules, your first aid, sun cream, hats. This is your job, probably, to make sure every single time the campers leave their accommodation and go out into the outdoors, that you're there harping on sunscreen, hat, water bottles. Because if they forget those in their cabins, they will suffer. So they can be your mantra, say, you know, sunscreen, hat, water bottles. So maybe get that mantra into your mind. So if they felt safe, as well as they had their psychological needs met, they're probably going to have a be okay time on camp. When they move into having their belonging needs met, they feel like they belong in the world. They have a sense of being accepted. They have a feeling of responsibility. They have a feeling that they're included. And within that sense of belonging, that is how the campers are able to form relationships. Yeah. Once that is achieved, then you start to have a really great time. Really great time. That's when new friendships are made. That's that warm, fuzzy feeling that they walk away from, they don't want to leave, they've just made a new family. How cool is that? Yeah. What part can you play in that? Are you already starting to think like that? Do you get it? That you've got such an enormous potential as staff to really drive that in, because you're different. And then, if that is met, this need of belonging, then esteem starts to arise on top of that. So then they can feel like they're achieving something, that they feel confident. Gosh, gosh, imagine, a 15-year-old comes, or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old coming, and they walk away with a higher amount of self-esteem because they felt like they belonged and they felt like they achieved something. Isn't that what camps are made of? Like, why else do people go on camps? Besides these two things. They want a sense of belonging. They want a sense of higher self-esteem. They want to walk away with something that they didn't have before. This is it. So once this sense of belonging and esteem is achieved, then self-actualization is even possible in a camp setting, and I have seen it over and over again. So an increased sense of morality, spirituality even. I mean, you guys, it's a focused camp on spirituality as well, so that's possible to walk away with self-actualized spirituality. Mental and emotional growth, realization of their full potential. These aren't just words, this happens on camp. And if that does happen, even with an iota, even just that much for one child, that's when you get into having a transformational time on camp. And that's the camp that you never forget, and you'll be speaking about for as long as you live. I once coached a 12-year-old off the top of a 12-metre abseiling tower, and she was petrified of heights. And for the first 2 days, I saw that she was somebody who wasn't popular in the group. She talked a lot, and kids kind of, scuffled around her and like to really include her. So I worked really sort of subconsciously including her in things and pointing out where she's done something really cool with the group, or what else? Oh, so many little things you can do. Mainly like in coaching her on the side and asking her questions about her life. Like I had time to do that because we have to walk into the wilderness to an activity that would take 20 minutes to walk to. Lots of time to interact. Time's never wasted. So she's up there on the top of a 12-metre tower, and I'm saying to her, put your feet on the edge and lower your butt over the edge and keep your legs straight and hold on to this rope that I've got. And she's freaking out, like tears streaming down her face, screaming, wanting to jump or run, or And I'm just talking calmly to her. I'm like, trust the ropes, trust the equipment, trust this, trust that. Remember what we spoke about yesterday? All these things that I had. Remember the activity that we did at the beginning of camp, which I'll tell you about later. Call her back to what she's here for. She lowers herself over and starts stepping down tiny little steps. And it took me half an hour to get her down this thing. Lucky I had another instructor there because I wasn't supposed to take that long for one kid. She gets halfway down, she looks up, and the tears of freaking out fright turn into tears of absolute joy. And she's crying and bawling, saying, I did it. I can't believe I did it. I'm doing it. And she's crying, tears pouring down behind her and dropping on the earth. And I'm like crying as well. My tears are dropping on her and her tears are dropping on the earth. Like, it was beautiful. And that changed her forever. Now she was the girl who wasn't as scared of heights as possible, and it was possible because of not just the fact that she lowered the butt over that 12-metre tower, but that she felt a sense of belonging and esteem and actualization and safety and everything.
Using words like transforming, how do you keep, normally it could be like temporary, where they feel safe, and then they kind of like, they leave and they're not there anymore, so it can kind of change it. So how would you make it work and stuff like that? That would, permanent.
So
Something they can take home with them.
So it's, are you saying that some people leave and come back to camp, that it's dead full-time, is that what you?
No, I'm saying that once camp's over, then it's all gone.
And it's a different dynamic, they're in a different setting.
So you don't have any control over that. You have only control over what's happening at camp. And if you want them to continue that experience into their life, people will continue the experience based on their own feeling of solidarity within themselves. And so you've got 14 days where it might be possible for a person to feel more solidly who they are and feel more accepted, not just by the group at camp, but that extends naturally. It's something that happens by default. It's not something that you do.
You mentioned that you say like positive comments about the kid that gets bullied.